When you're pioneering a new path, it's easy to feel alone. There's a whole tribe of people just like you who are on the mission toward building life-giving, family-oriented businesses with their spouse.
We're Nathan and Patience, 5-year business owners and marriage and business life coaches. This is a conversation about the how, the hard, and the hope that comes through stewarding the beautiful things God has called you to.
A few weeks ago, we had the privilege of hosting a local workshop all about short-term rentals and Airbnb.
Yeah, we got to talk about how to really go from purchase to profit with an Airbnb property and for it to be something that you can leverage as an asset.
Yeah, for your legacy, for passive income, for there's a lot of different ways that you can utilize short-term rental in your life to kind of help come alongside it, whatever else it is that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we started out with Airbnb in 2020.
Yeah.
We purchased our home with the intention of renting out an extra bedroom that was like attached to, I think it was your idea actually.
Yeah, basically like house hacking our home. And so when we purchased our house, it was a foreclosure and needed a lot of work. So we ended up walling off a portion of our house, had like a separate entrance for people, and it was just a 1-bedroom, 1-bath place that people could stay when they were coming through town.
It's kind of what started like our journey with Airbnb and our excitement about the value that can have.
Yeah.
We actually used that extra income to pay off our mortgage.
hmm
And even after that, for a while, continue to use it to save money to purchase our first investment property.
Yeah. And it was really wild because we opened it up in 2020 when a lot of things were very unknown financially. We just went full time as business owners. There was like a lot of disruptions in the market. We really had no clue what our year was going to look like financially. And so we opened it up and we really expected, I think, just to host like maybe like 2 guests a month. And that really wasn't the case. I think we spent like a few $100s to open it. It was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We would do it totally different now.
Yeah, absolutely. We just like decided to do it for the bare minimum. I saw a picture on Pinterest from somebody else's guest house, and at the time I didn't really know decorating, and so I just basically did that.
We copied and pasted.
Yeah, which isn't like a great idea, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tiny little garage apartment in Wichita, Kansas. I don't think that, we were really her competition. But so we did that. We made it kind of cute, but it was pretty simple. And yeah, it just kind of spearheaded everything that we're doing now.
Yeah.
So we bought our first investment property in 2021 and used that as an Airbnb, 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And then last year, we purchased our second investment property, also in the Wichita area, very close to where we live. And so we're running both of those as Airbnbs now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what fueled what we currently do, which is setup and decorating for other people and their Airbnbs. Either you have like spare space, like a guest house or a carriage house or something on your property that could be utilized as an Airbnb, or you have long-term rentals, maybe that you want to, like they're in a desirable area for Airbnb, and so you want to make that extra income. What would be some other like situations in which people might benefit from doing Airbnb?
Yeah. I think it really comes down to if you currently have a space that you're wanting to maybe make a little bit of income off of, or if you're also looking further into the future of wanting to build assets, build a retirement plan, and have, an asset that's appreciating.
Yeah.
It's a great way to be able to dive into real estate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's better than long-term rentals or other ways that people dive into real estate, but it is a way, and it is, for us, it's been a great way to start that journey.
Let's talk about the pros and cons between like short-term rent and long-term rent.
Yes.
What are some of the ones that come to mind for you?
One pro with long-term rental is typically you can get a tenant in there for at least a year, if not multiple years. And you really, for the most part, can kind of sit back and you don't need to be involved in the process at all, especially if you hire a property management company.
Right.
It's really just you holding on to the asset and the cash flowing through. But usually you're not really having a lot of profit. And then, you might have repairs and that might really even eat into your profit. But it is a really great option for people that are wanting to dip their toes into real estate, but maybe they don't have the ability to do it in a more like full-time capacity. Like their lifestyle doesn't make sense for that. And then as far as the short-term rental side, I'd say there's I feel like we're like a little biased because we've never
Yeah,
done long-term rental.
right.
Um, but this the potential for more cash flow, we've definitely seen that. I also personally love that there's way less wear and tear on the property. You hear about these rentals that someone's like moving in and out of every year, like everything's needing repainted, like new flooring, everything's damaged. With short-term rental, you're renting it out for a premium, and you're also then like getting to take care of it at a premium. And if there's damage done, you get to go in and replace it all immediately, get it taken care of. And it's usually also covered underneath your insurance as well too, any damage.
Yeah. Long-term rent, you can rent anywhere, any part of town, in the suburbs, in the rural areas. Short-term rent is really going to, the success is going to be dependent on the area.
Yes.
And we'll talk a little bit later about like Air DNA and really learning your area and what's working and how to make a smart decision with purchasing a property. But you have to think about is the property that you own or the property that you're looking at nearby things that would draw people,
Hmm.
like colleges, shopping, food, even just like a urban area where there are a lot of people that people might be needing to come and visit.
Yeah.
A lot of people are shocked that Wichita, Kansas does really well. I was actually looking on Air DNA the other day and just looking at different regions, kind of prepping for the class that we taught. Kansas is one of the best areas actually in the US as far as profitability with Airbnb.
Hmm.
And I think that's because the real estate is just so inexpensive.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of reasons why people are coming to Wichita or Kansas City or that, Kansas in general.
Yeah.
And so it's a great area for investing. And for short-term rental, we've had great success in Wichita, Kansas, because people are coming from rural areas in Kansas. People are coming for college. People are coming for a lot of different reasons, just like any other city. I think people think like there's nothing special about it. But for people that live in Kansas, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like this touristy town. It
Yeah.
just has to be something that people want to come to.
Yeah. And even though a lot of our guests are just driving through town, some people want to stay in an Airbnb because they have a pet, or maybe they have like a little one where they want to be have some like separation of rooms. There's so many reasons that people may want to stay in a short-term rental over a hotel, even if it's just for a night.
Yeah, and the way that we do it, also there's that boutique experience that people have that they get at our Airbnbs versus staying at, the La Quinta or the Holiday Inn or whatever. It's very curated, it's very homey, it's very personal. And some people want that over, like, it's unexpected. But if you are a super host and you have a good reputation, they're going to want that over just staying in a hotel. So let's talk about if people are looking for a property, how to make a good investment decision with Airbnb, maybe what we've done, and then what some other options are.
Yeah. I think you definitely want to do your research. So using tools like AirDNA to look at rental potential.
Yeah, AirDNA is a website that you can have a subscription to, or you can work with like a short-term rental property manager that probably has that already. And I would also recommend, like, if you're not going to be running it, if you are planning to hire a short-term rental property manager, get them involved in the process while you're looking for a property.
Yes.
You can definitely run it yourself, but if that doesn't fit your lifestyle, get that person involved as soon as possible because they're going to have a lot of insight. And so it shows different like areas and Airbnbs that are currently running in that area. It shows you the occupancy rate. It shows you like the nightly rate. It shows you like how much they made that year. And so you get a lot of detailed information and you can compare, just like somebody, your realtor would look on like the MLS and compare properties and see kind of what's doing well and what's a good deal on a property.
Yeah.
You can do the same thing on AirDNA with short-term rentals.
Basically getting comps for your property to make sure that it's a good investment.
Yeah, you can always like have in your head like this is not going to work or
Yeah.
this is going to be great, but to go on AirDNA is really going to get you that like actual information that helps you feel solid about your decision.
Yes.
One thing that we've done is we like to get properties that are really small. Even our 2-bed 1-bath, like I feel like our return on investment is higher than our 3-bed 1-bath. I mean, there's a lot of groups that stay in our 3-bed 1-bath that are small enough that they could have stayed in a 2-bed 1-bath. And so they're not going to pay more for that extra bedroom if they're not using it.
Yes.
So the 2-bed 1-bath that we bought was cheaper and we make about the same amount off of it.
Yeah, your overhead's going to be a lot lower. Your utilities, your taxes, your furnishing cost,
Mm-hmm.
all of it's going to be so much cheaper. And I think when you really have an idea of wanting to make a boutique experience and not just, some people that have Airbnbs, they kind of just like throw stuff in their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make sense. It's just kind of like mattresses.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like that furnishing budget really does matter, like how much you're spending per room.
That's what works for like the Midwest and our area. I would say it may be different for like touristy areas. That's
Yeah.
where you're going to have like families wanting to take vacations together and wanting to spend a little bit more on like extra amenities. And
Hmm.
so that's why you can look at like comps and see what's working for your area. But for us in the Midwest, we found that like these small houses are the easiest to get into with investing, and they're great for profit as well.
Yes. And with AirDNA, you can also then look at the listings and see what amenities does that listing have. So that can also kind of give you a clue of what amenities you might want to offer. In
Hmm.
the Midwest, with a lot of people just coming through, people aren't really, we're not the destination. So
Yeah,
a lot of it really is
we
just,
are the journey.
yes. But when we've set up properties in Florida before,
Hmm.
and you really, at that point, are people are coming, that is their vacation, that is their destination. You're really
Hmm.
wanting to make sure that you have the amenities to offer that they're wanting
Yeah.
to really pull them in, whether it's a pool, a grill, a fire pit,
Hot
hot
tub.
tub, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that people are willing to pay more if it is their destination on those little extra things, even if it's like an extra amenities in the kitchen
Yeah.
or, things that feel a little bit more luxury.
Yeah. It's important then to make a business plan off of that property. I would say that before you even put like an offer in,
Hmm.
really sit down and say, okay, based off of AirDNA numbers and what I know about my market, I'm planning to be able to charge this much per night,
Hmm.
and really even drill into I'm going to charge this much per weekdays, this much per weekends,
Hmm.
and
Maybe even different times throughout the year, seasonally.
yes, yeah. Figure out what your potential profit could be. We usually try to base this off of a 50% occupancy rate,
Hmm.
just to be conservative. It doesn't mean that your occupancy rate is not going to be higher. You want it to be higher, but you also want to make sure that your business plan could be successful if you don't have the expected projections of occupancy that you wanted.
That may vary too based on your business plan. So it's kind of a back and forth sort of thing. Like one of our properties is really focused on the weekends because
Yes.
it's like a girls' getaway, brides getting ready, bachelorette kind of a space. And so to be conservative, we base it off of booking out the weekends and then we fill in with the weekdays there.
Yeah.
So that was a lower occupancy rate, higher nightly rate for the weekends. And so it
Yes.
can kind of depend if you're a destination, you're going to be looking at summers and weekends. If you are like a pass through, it's going to be more that just flat occupancy rate that you're looking
Yeah,
for.
absolutely. So you'll figure up your potential profit, and then you really want to dive into how much am I going to spend on getting this set up? And you really want to make sure that you're accounting for everything because there's just, I think it's so easy to be like, oh yeah, it's just going to be like a few beds or it's just going to be this. And really, you're setting up an entire home at once. You're setting up an entire home in like 2 weeks or a month. So it's like imagine like you're starting fresh, first time ever moving out of your house, but instead of just being like, oh, I'm gonna, eventually complete this room, I'm eventually gonna get this thing. It's like you need everything perfect immediately. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. It's a lot of money and you can't depend on getting discounted prices from things like Facebook Marketplace. I
Yes.
know we've had people inquire with us about getting their property set up for them and they have like really undercut their estimation of how much they think it's going to cost to set up.
Yeah.
So then they hear our setup estimation and our design fee, and it feels like, whoa, I could do it for way cheaper than that. But then once they get really into it, they realize, like, okay, they're going to realize that's not really
Yeah.
reasonable for something with that high occupancy rate, that high nightly rate. So you want to have that end result in mind as well.
Yeah. You want to have that business plan where it's great if you do end up finding a deal, but just planning that you're not going to find this deal.
Hmm.
But yeah, you're going to want to, list out all your furnishings room by room, what you're planning to put in there. Also put in some wiggle room for things. You're going to want to put in like your utilities, your mortgage payment, your taxes. If your area has like you need to get like a license to run your Airbnb,
Hmm.
those can be pretty pricey depending on the area. Wichita's actually fairly pricey compared
Hmm.
to other areas.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, you want to make sure that you have every single thing listed out. Um,
You want to have those numbers be conservative. You kind of talked about that, but
yeah,
it's like it's amazing if you do better than you expected, but don't expect
yes,
everything to go perfect. And like you're looking at this property where it's only going to work if everything goes perfect. It
yeah,
might feel like really fun and really sexy to have a property like that, but we've had properties we've looked at that seemed really cool, and then we look at kind of our numbers, and it's just not going to make sense with like getting that profitability. At the end
yes,
of the day, the thing that you're going to love the most when it comes to running an Airbnb is like making sure that you're in the black
Yeah.
and not like losing money every month.
Yeah. I think that whatever business you do, it has to be sustainable. So it's not that business is all about profit. It's so much more than that. It's about like creating value, serving people, ethics. It's all of that. But profit also has to be a part of it,
Or you
or
can't continue to
you
run your
can't continue to
business.
do it. And so you do have to make sure that that core pillar of profit is there with whatever property that you select.
We view like hosting Airbnbs as ministry. I think we view everything that we do as ministry. We view photography as that, coaching. We want people to feel the light of Christ when they come into our properties. But that does, if we were to just say, well, it's ministry, and so it doesn't matter how much we spend on it, like we would lose those properties and we wouldn't be able to continue to do that. We also
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to make extra money for our family to be able to be more generous with giving. So you have to look at it holistically. And yeah, we talk about that with all types of business. But so you're going to make your budget. You're going to kind of walk through that. Again, if you're working with a property manager or somebody that's helping you, like a decorator or something like that, run those numbers past that person. Or if you know somebody that does Airbnb, or you want to go through some coaching with somebody that offers that with Airbnb, look over that, make sure there's nothing that you're missing.
Absolutely.
So once you have that budget, you know how much you're going to spend on everything. One thing that you have to keep in mind is like who is going to do your decorating and your setup. And so it's kind of and maybe design, depending on like the property that you purchase. Is it move-in ready, or is there like a lot of work that needs to be done?
Yeah.
Sometimes it can feel tempting to get these properties that are like fixer-uppers. And if you're really handy with that, that's great. But what you don't want to be doing is waiting months and months and months to open your Airbnb, and you have to factor in like you're losing all of that monthly income because you have to do projects on it. So depending on your season of life and your abilities, sometimes it can be better to purchase something that's pretty move-in ready and then just do like a little bit of paint, a little bit of wallpaper, some cute furniture. And that's kind of what you and I have found is better for our skill set.
Yes, absolutely. Because there is a holding cost to having a property. And so every week, every month that you're not running your property, you're losing money. And I think we've definitely seen situations where people have bought properties and they've sat on them for a really long time. And you don't want to be there.
No.
Like if you have an asset and you're planning for it to be part of your income stream or part of your retirement or whatever it is, like part of your portfolio building, it has to be making money. It can't just be something that's like, this is my side project that I'm eventually going to get opened up.
Our personal residence needed a lot of work when we moved in. And we've been here 6 years. And just last week, we were doing a lot of big projects that we've waited a long time to do. And that's great because we live here. We're not losing money by not, replacing the cabinets or putting new flooring in.
Yeah.
But you want to open your Airbnb right from the start.
Yes.
And if you're having to hire a contractor to do that work, it just doesn't always make sense.
Yeah.
So know your skill set, know your limitations with that. You definitely have to have a solid design and decorating plan for your property.
You do not want to just start throwing things in.
No, and you don't want to just start gathering things like from thrift stores because they were cheap and none of it matches. And that's a big mistake that a lot of people make. I feel like there was this golden era of Airbnb, like 2018, 2019, 2020. When you really could just like maximize the beds and expect that people would just pay a premium for heads and beds. And as long as like they had a comfy place to sleep, they didn't care about decorating.
Yes.
Some people will pay for Airbnbs like that, but it's not going to be like the best rate that you can charge for your property.
People are always going to be nickel and diming it. And it's going to be like the last property that they would want to pick.
And you're not necessarily even saving money because if you aren't able to understand like where it is you need to spend your money, you may end up overspending on something that you actually could have saved a lot of money on, and then underspending on something that like would have added so much monetary value in like return on investment on income with your property.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about just a little bit like what it looks like to design a property? Like how do we go about that?
Yeah. So usually the first thing that we do for us, the design and the decorating is all about like the return on investment. I think that's what excites me so much about like Airbnb decorating. I love doing residential decorating, and it's really fun just to kind of bring somebody's vision to life and kind of like increase their quality of life. But the really cool thing about Airbnb decorating is it brings that creativity and that like investment savvy mindset. And
Hmm.
so every artistic decision and creative decision that we're making is all based on like how to get the most money for the property.
Yes.
And so we're looking at your budget, we're looking at your target demographic, and that is influencing the style. Now, we also like, I like to bring in the personality and the story of the owner as well, because like it is a form of hospitality to run an Airbnb. It's kind of different than having like a rental property where it's just like, here's the building, you live in it. It's like you kind of are showing a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
And so it can be like, we do add personal touches as far as like what's somebody's taste, what's somebody's just message that they want to get across to the people that are staying there, because you want it to be something that like they're really proud of, and that when they tell, like when they give their friends like a friend discount to go stay there, they get to share that with people, or they want to go stay there themselves, like that it's something that really resonates with them.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
but mostly, like, again, what's really going to resonate is like that amazing return on investment. And so we're making sure that we reflect the owner, but then also focusing on that demographic. And so, is it a family? Like, we're wanting really, really durable materials. We're wanting extra amenities like a high chair, a pack and play. Is it supposed to be pet friendly? That's going to influence the kind of furniture that we pick, the kind of colors that we pick. Do we want to have like a fenced in backyard and spend extra money on that? What's the area? So, like, is it going to be more mid-century? Is it going to be more coastal?
Yeah.
It's really important to not think like, okay, this is my style. Like, oh, I love the beach and I live in the Midwest, but my whole Airbnb is going to be like ocean themed. Maybe we bring in like some blue tones and like some of those colors, but that's not necessarily going to resonate the most with like your average person that's coming to stay there, because there's even the water that is nearby is like brown. So it's not really like, doesn't make sense for the Midwest. Um, and so thinking about that and like shifting that style based on the demographic. Especially like something that we do in the Midwest a lot is kind of bringing in like that mid-century feel, because it's really trendy, but you can also buy like some used pieces to go
Yes.
with that vibe.
Yes.
That doesn't always work with like every property and every demographic. Like we have a property that's like a bachelorette, like girls' weekend kind of a property. And so we went crazy with the colors, crazy with the design. And with that, we definitely had to purchase more like new things. Like
Yes.
all the furniture is new. So yeah, I would say that's kind of how we go about it. I create like a color scheme, and then like just kind of like a visual mood board for every room.
Hmm.
And then it can be as collaborative as people want, but just kind of, I really love helping people to like get the most amount out of their property. And if we can set it up in like 30 to 60 days and we can make it beautiful and we can bring that money in, like that's worth hiring somebody that knows what they're doing with that.
Yes. Yeah. And we'll even do the design portion for people that don't hire us to
Yeah.
do the setup. Um, just helping people to have a full vision before they even maybe close on the property. They can have a full shopping list of what they know, like they know exactly what to order.
Mm-hmm.
They know exactly what's going to go in each room.
Mm-hmm.
And there isn't that like, oh shoot, like I don't know like how to pull this all together. And I just have these random pieces and like I hope that it feels intentional.
Yeah, setup can take like 2 to 4 weeks though to set up an entire property. And so look at your life and decide like, is that something that you want to do yourself? Is that something that you want to hire out? It's a lot of like assembling furniture from Wayfair and breaking down boxes and painting and things like
Yeah.
that. And some people want to save that money and like just invest themselves into putting that together.
Yeah.
And that way, like if you hire a decorator that gives you kind of a plan and you want to put that like sweat equity in, you're going to save money that way.
Yeah.
Another thing that you can do is just like hire somebody to coach you through like picking out a business plan and a demographic and a general vision. And then maybe
Yeah.
you do more of the decorating if that's something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different ways that like we help people to get their Airbnb going. And it's all based on like, what are your goals? What is your lifestyle? And really like, how can we maximize the income potential of this property? Because when somebody is spending that much money on like something like this, it's part of your legacy. And so you want to make sure that you nail that. And it's really fun to walk alongside people
Yeah.
in that.
And it's not just a like I think it's important to understand it's not just a purchase. It's the same as having like an IRA or having
Mm-hmm.
a 401k. and working even with like a wealth manager that's going to help be like, okay, we're going to like move these assets into these stocks this year
Mm-hmm.
or into these bonds, into this account because this is performing better. You really need to see your Airbnbs the same way or your real estate, however that looks. How are you going to make sure that your real estate portfolio is maximizing profit, not in a way that's greedy, but in a way that makes the most sense for your legacy? So that could even be seeing that you have some long-term rentals, like be performing better as short-term rentals.
Mm-hmm.
It could be seeing that there's a property that you want to flip and sell.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that you can do.
Yeah. And you may have a short-term rental that's just not performing well, and maybe you would be making more as a long-term rental.
Yeah,
So there are so many different ways to do real estate and investing, and it can help to just kind of keep your mind open to what's working best.
yeah, absolutely.
Next week, we're going to be talking all about hosting an Airbnb, all about like getting the property going and management side. So I'm super excited to have that conversation, and we'll see you guys soon.